The entertainment world has always been a dazzling stage of light, cameras, and applause. Yet, behind the curtains, it is also a world of fragile hearts, sudden tragedies, and unforgettable bonds. The shocking news of actor singer Yu Menglong's death shook the Chinese entertainment industry to its very core, and among those who felt the deepest tremors was none other than Wang Yibo, a star admired for his calm, cool composure. But on this day, his mask of strength shattered in a way that fans will never forget. It began like an ordinary morning. The sun was rising over Beijing, city streets buzzing with their usual rhythm. Wang Yibo had just wrapped a grueling rehearsal for an upcoming performance. He was in his practice room, hair damp with sweat, motorcycle helmet resting nearby, a reminder of the other life he lived outside the stage. He was scrolling absent-mindedly through his phone, answering a flood of messages from his team, when a notification flashed across his screen. The words struck him like lightning. Yu Menglong confirmed dead. For a moment, he froze, staring at the headline, his mind refusing to process it. Yu Menglong, known for his unforgettable role in The Eternal Love and countless other dramas, wasn't just another colleague in the industry. To Yibo, he was a warm presence, a friend who once shared late-night conversations, laughter on set, and quiet encouragement when the world seemed too heavy. The silence in the rehearsal room was deafening. Then, as if the dam inside him broke, Wang Yibo dropped his phone to the floor, his body trembling as his hand rose to cover his face. His usually steady breath turned into ragged gasps, and within seconds, tears streamed uncontrollably down his cheeks. For someone so rarely seen losing composure, this was a raw, unfiltered moment. His assistant rushed forward, confused and panicked, asking what had happened. Yibo could barely form words. His voice cracked, repeating over and over, "It can't be him, not Menglong." Those who witnessed it said it was unlike anything they had ever seen. The star who always kept his emotions in check, who faced criticism and pressure with stoic silence, was now curled up in his chair, sobbing like a child who had just lost his most precious treasure. The rehearsal room lights flickered above, casting long shadows across the floor, making the scene even more surreal. His tears weren't just for a colleague. They were for a brotherly bond carved silently in the background of fame. Wang Yibo and Yu Menglong's friendship wasn't always visible to the public. They weren't constantly photographed together or trending with hashtags, but those who knew the industry understood the respect they held for one another. Both were men of quiet strength, humble beginnings, and unyielding dedication to their craft. They understood the weight of being under the spotlight and the loneliness that often followed when the cameras turned off. And now, one of them was gone. As the news spread, social media erupted into chaos. Fans refused to believe it at first, flooding comment sections with desperate pleas for clarification. But confirmation arrived, and grief swept across the internet like a tidal wave. Hashtags bearing Yu Menglong's name trended globally within hours, filled with tributes, old video clips, and tearful goodbyes. But perhaps the most heart-wrenching sight of all was Wang Yibo himself, leaving the rehearsal building later that day. His eyes were red, swollen from hours of crying. He wore a cap pulled low over his face, but no disguise could hide the aura of despair around him. Reporters outside captured glimpses of him, and fans watching those clips later would say his pain was so raw, so human, that it broke their hearts into pieces. Inside his car, he sat in silence, staring blankly out the window as raindrops began to fall, almost as if the sky itself was mourning. His hands gripped tightly around a photograph tucked into his pocket, a candid shot taken years ago during a casual dinner gathering with Yu Menglong. That small, ordinary memory suddenly felt like a sacred treasure. What hurt Yibo most was the finality, the unanswered questions, the words left unsaid. In the quiet corners of his mind, echoes of their last conversation played over and over again. He remembered how Menglong had once told him, "No matter how heavy it gets, Yibo, don't carry it all alone. We all need someone." At the time, Yibo had simply smiled, brushing it off with his usual reserved nature. Now, he wished he had said more, expressed more, held tighter to those fleeting moments. Back at home, Yibo found himself unable to sleep. He paced the floor, his thoughts a storm of disbelief and sorrow. Eventually, he sat by his window, looking out at the city lights that glittered like distant stars. He whispered Menglong's name into the night, as if hoping the wind might carry his grief to wherever his friend's spirit had gone. The next day, he visited the memorial site that fans and colleagues had built in Yu Menglong's honor. Flowers, candles, handwritten notes, and photographs covered the ground like a sea of memories. Yibo stood quietly among the crowd, his mask barely concealing his swollen eyes. He knelt, placing a single white rose at the center, his hands trembling. He didn't speak publicly that day. He didn't need to. The silence of his bowed head said more than words ever could. But those who stood near swore they saw his lips move, whispering something only he and Menglong would understand. The entertainment industry can often feel like a whirlwind of fast-moving schedules and fleeting headlines. Yet this tragedy reminded everyone, fans, celebrities, and colleagues alike, that behind the glamorous facade are real people, fragile hearts, and friendships that mean everything. For Wang Yibo, the pain of losing Yu Menglong was more than just the loss of a co-star. It was losing a confidant, a brother, someone who truly understood the weight of the journey. The world may have seen Wang Yibo as the untouchable superstar, but in that moment of grief, he was simply a man mourning a friend gone too soon. Days later, during an interview, when asked about Yu Menglong, Yibo's eyes glistened once again. He paused for a long time before finally saying in a low, broken voice, "He was someone who always encouraged me to keep going. I'll never forget him." That sentence, simple yet heavy with emotion, left fans around the world in tears. It reminded them that even their idols, the people they look up to as unshakable, are vulnerable to heartbreak. As tributes continue to pour in, one thing remains clear. Yu Menglong's legacy will live on, not just through his unforgettable performances, but through the lives he touched, including Wang Yibo's. Their bond, now sealed by memory, serves as a reminder that love, respect, and friendship outlive even the cruel hands of fate. The story of Wang Yibo crying over Yu Menglong's death is not just a story of loss. It is a story of humanity, of breaking down walls, of showing the world that even the brightest stars carry wounds too deep for the spotlight to heal. And perhaps, in sharing his tears with the world, Yibo gave fans permission to grieve openly as well, proving that it is okay to cry, okay to remember, and okay to love someone so deeply that their absence feels unbearable. So as fans light candles, share memories, and whisper Yu Menglong's name into the night sky, they know one thing for certain. His spirit continues to shine in the hearts of those who loved him. And among them, Wang Yibo's heart burns the brightest, carrying the memory of a friend who will never be forgotten. The moment Wang Yibo heard the devastating news of Yu Menglong's death, time seemed to stop. For those who know him, Wang Yibo is not the type to wear his heart on his sleeve. He is known as the calm one, the collected one, the superstar who maintains composure no matter how intense the situation gets. But on that tragic day, all of his defenses crumbled, and what the world saw was not the polished celebrity, but a vulnerable young man facing a heartbreak he could not escape. When the news broke, his body reacted before his mind even had the chance to fully register it. His hands trembled as his phone slipped from his grasp, hitting the polished wooden floor of the rehearsal room with a dull thud. The echo of that sound seemed to reverberate inside him, like the sudden cracking of a fragile heart. His knees weakened, forcing him into the chair nearby. For a long moment, he sat in silence, eyes wide with disbelief, before the tears began to fall uncontrollably. It wasn't just crying. It was sobbing that came from the deepest part of his soul. The kind of grief that makes it hard to breathe, the kind that shakes your entire body as if every nerve has been torn open. His assistant, stunned and unprepared, could do nothing but place a comforting hand on his shoulder, whispering words Yibo couldn't even hear. The room around him blurred, lights fading, walls closing in. He wasn't in rehearsal anymore. His mind was racing back to every moment he had ever shared with Yu Menglong. The memory of laughter during a late-night dinner, the encouraging nods exchanged backstage before big performances, The casual way Menglong always seemed to break the silence with a joke that made everyone burst into laughter. These memories hit him one after another, like a reel of film being played too fast, leaving Yibo overwhelmed with the reality that they would never happen again. Outside, the world carried on as usual. Cars honked on the busy streets, phones rang, cameras clicked, people laughed. But inside Wang Yibo's small bubble, everything had collapsed. The superstar who fans saw as unbreakable now sat slumped in a chair, shoulders shaking with grief, his face buried in his hands. Later that evening, Yibo tried to leave the rehearsal building quietly, hoping to slip past unnoticed. But reporters and fans were already there, waiting for him as always. This time, though, there was no confident stride, no polite nod to the cameras. Instead, he walked slowly, almost dragging his feet. His cap was pulled low, his mask covering half his face, but even that couldn't hide the redness in his eyes or the heaviness in his movements. The moment he entered his car, photographers captured the haunting image of him resting his forehead against the glass window, tears staining his cheeks once again. Inside the car, Yibo pulled out his phone. He scrolled through old photos, stopping at one of him and Menglong smiling after a project they had both worked on. He stared at it for so long that his vision blurred again with tears. His chest rose and fell with heavy breaths as he whispered, "Why didn't I say more? Why didn't I tell you how much you meant to me?" When he arrived home, silence wrapped around him like a suffocating blanket. He entered his room and sat on the edge of his bed, staring at nothing. The walls seemed to close in on him, echoing with the absence of the voice he would never hear again. Eventually, he reached for his guitar, strumming aimlessly, each note heavy with sorrow. Music had always been his escape, but this time, it was a desperate attempt to fill the emptiness Yu Menglong's absence had left behind. But no song could ease the ache in his chest. Days later, Yibo decided to visit the memorial site that fans and colleagues had built. He dressed in all black, his face hidden beneath a cap and mask. But the moment he arrived, silence fell across the crowd. The fans parted quietly, creating a path for him. He moved slowly, his steps deliberate, each one heavier than the last, until he reached the front where candles flickered in the evening wind. Flowers of every color lay scattered, their fragrance filling the air, mingling with the bittersweet scent of burning wax. Yibo knelt down, placing a single white rose at the heart of the memorial. His hands trembled as he adjusted it, making sure it didn't fall out of place, as if this small gesture was the only way he could still care for his friend. Those who stood nearby saw him bow his head, his shoulders hunched, his lips moving in a whisper no one else could hear. Some fans later swore they caught fragments of his words. "I miss you. I'll carry you with me always." For the rest of the evening, Yibo remained there, silent among the fans. No cameras, no flashing lights. Just him, grief, and the overwhelming presence of a man who had touched his life in ways words could never describe. As the days turned into weeks, fans began to notice a change in him. His once playful spark seemed dimmer, his eyes carrying a shadow of pain. In interviews, when Menglong's name was mentioned, he paused longer than usual, swallowing hard before speaking. And when he did speak, his voice was softer, his words weighed with sorrow. The industry, known for its relentless pace, moved forward with new headlines and new stories. But for Wang Yibo, time had slowed. He was learning to live with the absence of a friend, with memories that now felt like both treasures and knives. Yet, in his tears and vulnerability, fans saw something extraordinary. They saw that behind the superstar's image was a man who loved deeply, who valued friendship in ways fame could never replace. They saw a human side of him that was rarely revealed, and it only deepened their respect and admiration for him. Wang Yibo's tears for Yu Menglong became more than just a personal moment of grief. They became a reminder to everyone, fans, friends, and strangers, that life is fragile, that we must cherish the people we love while we still have them. And though Yu Menglong is gone, his spirit lives on, in the stories he told through his acting, in the laughter he shared, and most of all, in the heart of Wang Yibo, who will carry his memory for the rest of his life. Broken heart, if this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Your support keeps these stories alive, and together, we can continue to remember and honor the stars who left us too soon.